Good morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing Gather the Spirit, number 347, in your gray hymnal. And the lyrics are on the screen. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather
Come, you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder.
Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts.
Come, you who bring your hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share.
Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you realize.
Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering up the resources to claim your truth.
Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation.
We begin our story again, gathering courage, love, mindfulness, and a sense of purpose.
We gather as a people of all ages, of different abilities, different backgrounds, and different perspectives.
We share a covenant, a direction for our shared journey, and a commitment to encourage and challenge one another to spiritual growth.
This path will ask much from us. Let us move forward with love.
Let us move forward with appreciation for one another. Let us move forward knowing we are not alone.
Whoever you are, whatever your gifts, you are welcome to join this journey.
For the stories that long to be told and retold, for the stories that long to be imagined and reimagined, for the stories that long to be envisioned and celebrated, we kindle this chalice.
May its flame bring the light of different truths, different paths, and different voices, all needed to cultivate a transformative story of justice, love, and beauty.
Amen. Good morning. Welcome to the Eno River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, or ERUUF as we like to say. My name is Reverend Jacqueline Brett. I'm the lead minister here, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your race, your gender identities, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey or in your search for truth, for meaning and liberation, know that you are welcome here in beloved community. And if you are visiting with us today or for the first time or perhaps the second time, I invite you to rise in body or spirit so that we might give you an ERUUF welcome. Welcome all, and thank you for choosing to spend this Memorial Day Sunday with us here at ERUUF. Now would be a great time to turn off or down any devices you might have. Actually, don't turn them off, just turn them down. You'll need them later. And for those of you who are visiting, if you should come again, and we hope that you will, right after this, actually even today, right after this service, at 11, right as the service ends, there's a class in our commons room, the building next door, called Inquirers, for visitors and newcomers, and it gives you an opportunity to learn something about us or to share some things about yourself as well. We have Inquirers every Sunday. The 8 classes rotate, and we invite you to join us at any time directly after the service, or if you're not able to get here, you can also join that class, participate in that class online. So today, I just wanted to have one announcement, and that's to let you know that on May 31st, our artists in residence of this year, Demeanor, will be holding a concert here in the sanctuary at 7 p.m. For those of you who do not know or didn't have an opportunity to meet Demeanor, Demeanor is a hip-hop banjo player and actually plays with, or has played with, the Carolina Chocolate Drops. and he will be coming here with his band. It will be a full-out concert, and it's free, so I hope you'll avail yourselves of that and come to enjoy his music. And so with that, we shall begin.
Good morning. I want to invite everybody to come on down and let's have a little story today. Hi. Look at that shirt. Come on, friends. Here we go. All right. We have a story today that is called Many Shapes of Clay, a story of healing. What does healing mean? Does anybody know? Yeah.
It means helping people if they get hurt.
Right, helping people if they get hurt. Sometimes we get hurt and then we need to get better, and that's healing. And sometimes your finger gets hurt or you fall and scrape something, but what if we scrape our foot? Then we need to let it heal, right? That's right. Sometimes it might be our feelings that get hurt. And this is a little story about Isha. This is Isha, and this is her cat who loves to take long naps. This is Isha's mama. She works in a small studio inside their apartment basement, and where she makes shapes from clay. And you can see she makes a lot of beautiful shapes, tall shapes, small shapes, even bumpy, colorful shapes. Isha asks her mama why she doesn't play with the shapes. Why do you think? Do you think these are shapes are for toys? What? Yes. They're really delicate. That's exactly right. And that's what Mama says. She says it takes so much time and patience to make each shape. She says they are too fragile to play with. And that fragile is like delicate. Mama slices off a chunk of clay like butter, then rolls it into a ball like dough and hands it to Isha. Isha stretches and smooths and rolls the cool clay in her hands. She doesn't know what she'll make today. Maybe I'll make a two-headed lizard with polka dots, she thinks. One shape in particular makes Isha very happy. It reminds her of the day last summer when she and Papa picked a handful of lemons. She paints her shape the same bright yellow. Oops. All this hard work deserves a pause, Mama says. How about some fresh air? Sweat drips down from the top of her head to the tip of her chin. Mama misses Papa too. So Isha and Mama both miss Papa. Why do you think they miss him? Do you think he's there with them, or you think maybe he's someplace else? Yes. Sorry, what? He's someplace else. Yeah, he's not with them right now. And so they're sad. They miss him. Outside, a summer breeze rustles through the neighborhood trees while the sun slowly sinks behind the buildings. Isha sits on the stoop and plays with her yellow shape. The rumble of a skateboard interrupts Isha's daydream. She looks down at her shape. It's less yellow now, it's like the color of a lemon that's lost its taste and not as soft. But that's okay, because now it makes music when Isha taps it with her fingers. Tap, 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 tap. Isha taps her clay. Tap, tap, crack. What happened? Isha's shape has broken into many shapes on the ground. Each piece reflects the sadness she feels. And look at the picture for a minute and see all the yellow pieces that are broken? What else is broken? Yes.
Like it looks like her feelings.
Right, it looks like her face. Did her face really crack into pieces? No, but that's how she feels, isn't it? She feels so sad. All right. Isha tries to think of ways to put the pieces back together. Tape wouldn't last very long. And glue always sticks to the wrong things. Have you ever tried to have glue and you stick things to your fingers instead of to what you're trying to stick together? I have too. It's a problem when it's super glue. What Isha feels is hard to describe. Like something that is too heavy to lift, like something that might last forever. The sunlight is fading and the breeze has stopped blowing through the trees. So, what is Isha really sad about? Does somebody have an idea about that? You are answering a lot of questions today. You're really thinking. Okay. Her shape broke. She's sad about that. Do you think she's sad about anything else? What is she sad about? Let's see what we find out. Isha's eyes fill with tears as she looks down at all the broken pieces. What happened? Asked Mama as she scoops Isha up onto her lap. I gave my shape so much time and patience, but now it's in pieces. It's okay to feel sad about those broken pieces, Mama says. There are times, many times, when we lose the things we love. Mama somehow knows what Isha is feeling. I never knew she could feel the same feelings, Isha thinks, and hugs her Mama close. So I think Isha feels sad about her clay lemon breaking, but I think it also reminds her of how sad she feels about missing her papa. Okay, together they pick up the broken pieces and walk past the shapes on Mama's shelves, stepping over the last step where the cat purrs sound asleep. You can't always fix what's broken, but you can always try, Mama says, as she pulls out a small box from under her bed. I wonder what's in that box. Inside are spindles of twine in different sizes, colors, and textures. Think about what they might be going to do with that twine. Twine is like string or thread. I wonder what they're going to do with it. Slowly, with patience and care, Mama and Isha connect all the broken pieces together by looping twine around each one. What do you think they're going to make with that? Any thoughts about that? Maybe I can make it into something new tomorrow, Isha thinks out loud. What a wonderful idea, Mama says, gazing at Isha with a warm smile. Now let's wash up and see what we can come up with for dinner. So what did she make? Just say it out. A necklace, right. She made a necklace out of that. Could she put it back together to be just the same as it was before? She couldn't do it, but she could make it into something new that was pretty and that she loved, and that also reminded her of her papa. Okay, now it's time for you guys to go to religious exploration, and we're going to sing you out in peace and love.
Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace. Please turn and greet your neighbor, especially someone you don't know.
Please join me now in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we give thanks for the many ways we can find a sense of belonging here, a place of refuge and purpose grounded in shared values, a place that calls us to action to engage the work of justice, a place where we radiate love, joy, and a spirit of generosity. This morning, we are blessed with a sacred time and space to come together to co-create beloved community. And as a people who care for one another, we lift up our joys and concerns. We hold in our hearts Janet Moran and her family in their grief at the death of her husband, Thomas Plesick, on May 2nd. We hold in our hearts the family and friends of Cliff Misson, who passed recently. A celebration of life was held for Cliff at ERUUF yesterday. We hold in our hearts Michael Field, Lenora Harrisfield, and their families as they process two recent deaths. Their son's father-in-law and Michael's cousin both passed in the last week of April. Both were named Jim, both were in their 80s, and both lived good lives, leaving behind loving families. We hold in our hearts the father of Jennifer Staunton, who has been in the hospital for several weeks with health issues. We hold in our hearts the heart and soul of the world. May we find ways to come together with deeper understanding, create peace, and put compassion into action. We also hold in our hearts all those celebrating joys, milestones, and successes in life at this time. With a spirit of true gratitude, we celebrate the joy of being in community. May we always work to offer a place of belonging for all who come here. On this Memorial Day weekend, we honor all those who have fallen in service to this country. We acknowledge the sacrifice, the courage, and appreciate those who continue to work for freedom and justice around the world. In a spirit of unity and compassion, together we breathe and listen and honor this moment together in silence. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
Our meditation hymn this morning is number 1009 in the Teal hymnal, the meditation on breathing. If you know the descant or the drone, please go ahead and sing those while everyone else can sing with me on the melody. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
And so, as Reverend Daniel said yesterday, we held Cliff Misson's celebration of life here. Cliff raised his sons, Unitarian Universalists, and they are adult men now. And one of his sons lit the chalice, and from the chalice he lit a single candle to symbolize a light. That is Cliff's life and how he impacted the people he left behind. At this time, however, I am lighting a candle to symbolize the life of George Floyd, who died 5 years ago today. And symbolizing his life and how it has impacted so many around the world, and symbolizing the black men and boys who have died before him, and also the black men and boys, including my own children, who are alive today. You know, so much has changed since then. We had a supposed racial reckoning in our country, and everybody got DEI groups and made statements about racial justice and racial equity, and look where we are today. All of those things under threat, and people and companies and organizations just caving, very few being willing to take a stand for what they claim to have believed in, and not thinking about the impact that that has on Black people and people of color who are impacted by that recanting of those statements, that not living into those statements. You know, the more I conduct one of these sacred celebration of life events, the more convinced I am that it's impossible to know any single person entirely. Not because things are kept hidden away, but because we are all collectively holding pieces of a person's story, even when we believe to know them all. I learned a great deal about Cliff yesterday, first as witness in the variety, the wide variety of people who came to celebrate his life. And I learned much through what was shared by his two sons, who so clearly loved their father. And this past week, I was also visited by two ERUUFians. And for those of you who are visiting, we like to call ourselves ERUUFians around here. They were representing both themselves and members of their covenant group for what turned out to be a very rich conversation about Unitarian Universalist principles, values, and the importance of democracy as an enduring UU principle. I deeply appreciated their visit, and I've been thinking about our conversation ever since, as some of it, by coincidence, intersected with what I had been thinking about sharing with you today. As many of you, I'm sure, feel and perhaps shudder to contemplate, our country is in a time of great transition. We are in a liminal moment between what cultural historian Thomas Berry called the old story and an emerging new story. Berry, a true visionary who died in 2009, said that the old story that once explained our place in the universe is no longer sufficient. Neither does it hold the hope and justice we so desperately need in these times. You see, the old story that many of us inherited over centuries consisted of narratives that place humans at the center, a story endorsing dominion over nature and also over one another. Narratives that championed control, exploitation, and a disconnect between our responsibilities to the earth, the community, and for us here in America, to the democratic institutions that bind us together. The old story, with its emphasis on power imbalances and disregard for our common home, the earth, has laid bare its limitations, a world where the relentless pace of environmental degradation, social inequity, and political polarization is now the norm. This inherited story can no longer sustain our collective living. And in failing our planet, these narratives have also failed our democracy, a democracy that doesn't simply need to be protected or saved, but is, I believe, steeped in the need to evolve, just as our cultural narratives must evolve. It is not simply an embrace of our fifth UU principle that upholds the use of the democratic process within our congregations and our society at large, but to my view, it's about forging a new story of democracy. We stand at this time in an in-between moment, a space overflowing with uncertainty, and I also believe immense possibility. We are in the midst of a transformative pause, which extends to us a dual invitation. One, imagining and creating a new story that celebrates our kinship with all life. And two, taking decisive, principled action to protect and not simply save our democracy, but to reimagine it. Democracy is often painted as if it's in a static state, a given, a framework that quietly functions in the background of our lives. However, the events of our current times are teaching us that democracy does not simply exist in an untouched form. We've come to see that it's actually quite fragile. It's a dynamic process that requires constant vigilance and active participation. Many of us are coming to the new realization that democracy must always always be on our minds and fought for with unwavering commitment. And this said, history has continually demonstrated that democratic rights and institutions can be eroded, distorted, or even dismantled when citizens become complacent. From the struggles for civil rights to labor movements and environmental justice campaigns, a sustainable democracy has always, always, always required active participation. The realization that democracy is never fully acquired but must be nurtured is now our wake-up call. Every day, in countless small decisions, elections, public debates, and personal interactions, democracy is shaped and reshaped. Democracy, we are now seeing, requires our mindful awareness in realizing that political rights, equality under the law, and participatory decision-making are neither permanent nor self-sustaining. Activism on behalf of democracy is also multifaceted. It's not confined solely to protest marches, contacting our representatives, or political rallies. It actually moves through every sphere of our lives. Activism that fights for democracy recognizes that the health of democratic institutions is intertwined with issues of justice, equity, and environmental sustainability. Movements that champion racial, gender, environmental, and economic justice are, in effect, movements to reclaim and repair our democracy. Every protest, every policy debate, and every act of kindness in the public sphere can be seen as a stone laid to build a stronger democracy. Activism for democracy also involves a constant ethical challenge to resist complacency and to persist even when the progress is slow or setbacks are steep, and both will be true. This challenge is bound up with notions of courage and sacrifice, which require us to take personal risks for the collective good. A persistent resistance as an act of love for one's community and believing in its potential. The understanding that democracy is not given, but earned, defended, and reimagined with every courageous step we take. And though threats of authoritarianism today loom over our democratic institutions amidst the chaos, I believe also lies hope. Embedded in our hearts, we carry the courage to act, the determination to subvert oppressive structures, and the faith that we, with audacity and compassion, can birth a new narrative anchored in justice and democracy. I heard its possibilities in the voices of the two people who visited with me on behalf of their covenant group last week. So this liminal space we are in between the old story and the new story, this space is a place of ambiguity, possibility, and profound transformation, a sacred pause, where as our old narratives begin to crumble, because they're crumbling, y'all, the promise of something new and more just can emerge because it must. The old story that has defined us has already been leaving behind the questions and the challenges of transformation. In other words, change. And for some of us, this change is not a bad thing because the old story was not working for us anyway. The liminal space between the old story and the new story is a moment of powerful suspension, a time to mourn, to dream, and ultimately to transform our world through acts of resistance, creativity, and collective courage. It's a space and time when seeds of possibility and alternate visions can be sown, forming roots in justice, equity, interdependence, and collective renewal. Each act of resistance is a brave step away from systems that sow division, a tangible commitment to reimagine democracy from the ground up. As Angela Davis once powerfully said, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Such declarations, imbued with courage, inspire us to act against injustice. These brave bursts of resistance, whether in local town halls, grassroots campaigns, or creative expressions, are seeds of transformation that call us to embrace our democratic disruption. My son, whose artwork you see here, and this was a piece that one day it came on, he had torn up his entire box spring of his bed. And I just said to myself, I get to bring art into the world. I'm the mother of an artist. And it was a commissioned piece by an architect, actually. The thing is huge. But my son focuses his work on environmental issues. And so this piece, Grace, if you saw it in person, is actually flowers he created that's coming up through these springs. And so this is what I mean by creative expression about an important issue in our society. The gift at this time is that we might begin to align our actions with our deepest values and craft a narrative for a more inclusive and vibrant democracy. Because the news story we are called to co-author is deeply intertwined with how we envision democracy. When I consider a news story in terms of our UU values, I see that transformation is possible when we challenge the status quo by letting go of narratives that no longer serve us and embrace a future defined by equitable possibilities. That true democracy is an embodiment of justice, social, environmental, and political. It calls to confront inequities, correct historical wrongs, not be afraid of them, correct them, and build institutions that honor every human and non-human life. That a just democracy recognizes that fairness is not achieved by treating everyone the same, but by understanding the unique struggles and needs of each person and community. Equity demands that policies work to level the playing field. That democracy thrives in diversity. Hear me? Democracy thrives in diversity. Our pluralism, the multiplicity of voices, identities, and belief means that our collective decisions are not made in isolation according to one group's agenda, but in dialogue and mutual respect. That in the recognition of our interdependence, we understand that the well-being of one is the well-being of all, that our actions ripple outward and transform the lives of others. that acts of democratic renewal require a spirit of generosity of all kinds, of relinquishing limited notions of scarcity and embracing the abundant potential of community. And this new story, democracy is not merely a static system of governance. It's a dynamic process of collective creativity and resilience. And we are the co-authors of this evolving story. The creation of a new story with a healthy, vibrant democracy at its heart is not waiting to be delivered from on high. It begins here with each of our actions as its co-authors. Like a single seed planted carefully in nourishing soil that has the potential to become a thriving forest, your inspired engagement sends ripples of hope and renewal far beyond what you may imagine. You know, one of the things I appreciated so much in hearing Cliff's story yesterday was how his inspired and determined actions rippled out to transform lives, not only here at ERUUF or in Durham, but in prisons across the United States, and for lives all over the world. It was amazing. As authoritarianism looms over our democratic institutions, the task of saving democracy is not solely a political mission, but an ongoing practice of community, of accountability, and deep human connection. So I offer you now 6 strategies to counter authoritarian trends and to nurture a vibrant, resilient democracy. First is cultivate vigilance in everyday life. And by vigilance, I mean keeping informed about policy decisions, holding public officials accountable, and examining how power is exercised in our communities. The early warning signs of authoritarian control are curtailing free speech, restricting independent media, and undermining the rule of law. Well, I gotta tell you, that horse has already left the barn. Second is to strengthen civic engagement and participation. A thriving democracy depends on active participation. We counteract authoritarianism through 3 things. First, voting consistently. Don't believe that your vote doesn't matter. Know that it really does count. Second, organizing, forming neighborhood groups, town halls, or community forums to build local power that is difficult to co-opt by authoritarian forces. An example of this is Durham can. Become politically literate. Educate yourself and others about democratic principles and the mechanics of government. Some people just don't know how things work. And if you do know, let them know. Third, the third thing to counter authoritarianism is to build inclusive intersectional alliances. Authoritarianism often exploits divisions among communities, whether along lines of race, class, ethnicity, or ideologies. Healing these divisions is key to forming a unified defense against authoritarian power. We foster alliances and intersectional solidarity by, 1, recognizing that the fight for democracy is intertwined with struggles for social, environmental, and economic justice. That by embracing pluralism, by valuing every voice and perspective, even when it's hard, y'all. And sometimes, I can tell you, sometimes it's hard. But making sure, nonetheless, that policies are reflective of all communities. And third, cultivating interdependence and generosity, understanding that every act of support for someone else helps strengthen the entire body politic. 4, hold fast to your UU values. They offer a powerful ethical framework against authoritarianism. For example, justice and equity. Stand up for policies and practices that dismantle systemic oppression. Make sure no vice is left out in political decision making. Transformation and pluralism. Be willing to rethink old institutions and democratic practices in favor of innovative, inclusive approaches. Encourage diverse opinions and creative solutions that serve the common good. And lastly, interdependence and generosity. Recognize that democracy thrives when we help one another. Acts of generosity such as mentoring, community support, or sharing critical information builds trust and shared perseverance in the face of authoritarian challenges. We have to engage in peaceful, persistent activism. Effective activism goes beyond protests. It's about embodying democratic ideals in everyday life. Think about that. How might you embody democratic ideals in your everyday life? Cultivate a culture that centers love and empathy. At its foundation, saving democracy is an act of love. Love for our communities, love for our planet, love for our shared future. Loving democracy means that every act of resistance, every vote cast, and every conversation held is driven by compassion and commitment through, 1, empathy. When we understand the struggles of others, it's harder for divisive authoritarian rhetoric to take root. 2, courage, standing firm in moments of adversity, drawing on historical examples of those who risked everything for the cause of democracy. And they might have risked everything for their own rights, but ultimately, it served the cause of democracy. And 3, hope. By maintaining the belief that a better, more equitable future is possible, a future that is built on democratic values of justice and inclusion. So what might happen if we did all this? Embrace the challenge to reimagine our relationship with the earth and with each other through a lens of love, justice, and renewed democratic participation. So I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that the call to resist, to act, and to reimagine our democracy is not without challenges. It requires us to confront fear, to confront our uncertainty and the inertia of old systems. Yet within those struggles lie our greatest opportunity, an opportunity to demonstrate that courage, when combined with empathy and informed action, can reshape the world. In this liminal space and time, we are faced with a pivotal choice. Continue down the path of expired narratives, or rise boldly to craft a story that reflects our deepest values. In this creative act of resistance, the democratic news story is not simply aspirational, it is imperative, my friends. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition champions a reimagining of society that honors the sacred in all creation, Now we extend that reimagination to our democracy, a system that must be as healthy, dynamic, and inclusive as the communities and ecosystems it serves. So, after all this preaching, I need to admit something. I am sometimes weary of reimagining, and we've barely begun. And the question is any of this possible? I say yes. This country was actually founded on resistance to an authoritarian regime. Don't forget your history. So here's what I invite you to imagine with me, because I don't want to do this by myself. I need y'all. And y'all need me too. Imagine with me a future where transformation is celebrated at every level, a society where communities from indigenous lands to urban neighborhoods collaborate to address the pressing challenges of our time with justice, with equity, and interdependence. This is a democracy that mirrors nature's own pluralism and generosity, a democracy that honors differences and sustains life in all its forms. A democracy where integrity, accountability, and compassion guide policy, ensuring that every living being benefits from our shared progress. And this vision, sacred waters heal societal wounds, and forests and communities whisper their ancient wisdom, all working in concert for a better tomorrow for us all. We stand courageous and resolute in the space between what has been and what might be. Guided by our values and principles, we can commit our acts of resistance as seeds of change, nurturing a democracy that is vibrant, inclusive, and true. May we together co-create a future where every voice is heard, every life is valued, and every act of courage lights the way to a more just, loving world. I invite you to join with me in a prayer right now. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit that holds us in our interdependence and interconnection. Guide us as we traverse this in-between space. Grant us the vision to see possibilities amid uncertainty, the strength to resist systems unworthy of our dreams, and the determination to nurture a world where compassion thrives. The vision to see our interconnectedness in every single face and form. And the courage to build a democracy that honors your sacred mystery. In the spirit of the new story, let us be united in our shared dreams of a just, flourishing, and democratic world. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so. Okay, now I'm going to ask you all to be generous. As we all know here, those of us who are ERUUFians and those of us who are friends of this congregation, it takes quite a bit to create what we have here in beloved community. It takes our time, it takes our talent, it takes our creativity, and it also takes our treasure. And so as the greeters come forward to take up this morning's offering, if you do not have something to place into the collection pouches, know that you can point your device that I told you not to turn off at the QR code on the screen, and it will lead you to our giving portal. And now we will have the offertory by Eric and Helen. Of the gifts of our beloved community. Thank you, Eric. And I don't know, my brain, and just Helen. I'm sorry, Helen. Helen, you know I love you, so you don't have to. I'm sorry. My brain cells are swimming around. But thank you so much for your music this morning. I really appreciated it. Wendy will now lead us in our closing hymn.
Yes, please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing We Laugh, We Cry, number 354 in the gray hymnal. We'll sing the first verse and the last verse, and the lyrics are on the screen. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our
As we leave today, may our shared commitments inspire a future of vibrant democracy, daring resistance, and a just and interwoven community for all. So go forth, beloved community, with your hearts ablaze, with courage and conviction. May you live out our shared values in every act, every word, and every dream. Let the spirit of transformation guide you on the path to justice. Let inclusivity and generosity shape your endeavors, and may a reimagined democracy, vibrant and alive, become a lasting legacy of our collective aspirations. In the light of a new story, go in peace, go in love, go with courage, and remember you are not alone. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.